But yeah, let's get started. I appreciate Sean and Vic from PoEWit. These guys are awesome because we're looking at this new technology. Kind of, it's around power over Ethernet and like lighting. So we all have a PoE switch or some sort of power over Ethernet category cable all throughout our infrastructure. So it's really interesting to see it being kind of branched out into the lighting industry, which is awesome. So if you guys want to take it away, I appreciate you guys coming on. So yeah, Vic and Dusan, take it away.
Definitely. Definitely thank you for having us. And, we've been working with you guys for, almost a year now. And, the marriage is definitely there. I know you guys are all about low voltage and, PoE and what we're about and what we're going to tell you, our vision and everything, our products. It's all about low voltage. So, the marriage is definitely there. So, anyhow, I'll introduce Dusan in a bit in the next slide, but Blake said our company is called PoEWit. Some people pronounce it PoE wit, but either way is fine with us. But we try to come up with a name that kind of rhymes with poetry, poet. But it basically means PoE, so smart devices over power Ethernet, and the wit comes from smart. So with that said, let's give you an overview of what we do. So Dusan and I, this is our second company together. We go back a long ways. When we both got out with our masters in engineering, we started out at a research and development where we researched various weapon systems and wrote software around tracking satellites and ICBM missiles back in the day. And from there, we both kind of went our separate ways, started different companies, did various things, and we got really close again when we were both trying to build our houses. We were remodeling our houses, but we sold our companies. We started getting into, and this was back in 1999, like about 2000 timeframe. And when we wanted to do all the music streaming before the iPod and everything we know today, we want to do most of what we want to do, video, audio, all over, computer networks. And that's kind of how our previous company, Package, Device, and Software, got started. We just wanted to make better networking devices that could handle the audio, video traffic. So do you want to add anything to that, Dusan, of Package and,
Yeah, we're always looking at new things to build, right? And like you said, the music server thing just started, and we're like, wow, this is kind of cool stuff. But all over a computer network, and I had a lot of IT background as well at the time, and I was always following what the latest and greatest was, and that's kind of how we got together, and we got into certain channels that do the audio video, and we said, the one thing that they all share is a network. So why not give them top-notch enterprise quality networking devices that will give them a reliable network so the control system won't have any problem, communicating and doing what it needs to do.
Right. And, our genesis, our philosophy back then kind of carries through into PoEWit. And I think it's important to mention, all we really did with Package was took very big engines, chipsets that Cisco, Extreme, that all the top enterprise guys would use, and we put them into our devices, but we wrote software, firmware around it so that it was very easy to configure. So a really big engine that could handle the biggest of networks, and made it very easy to configure without all the enterprise training that you needed.
Right. That's the biggest problem a lot of these customers of ours had at the time, is like everything was so complicated, right? And then we kind of figured out, well, what do they want? They want it easy, kind of more plug and play. If they do have to configure something that's pretty simple to configure, or it kind of has a wizard so they can configure it, pretty easily, or easy instructions. It's all about easiness. And, especially in a custom installer channel, they go to a customer's home, they want to be in and out as quickly as possible, right?
Right.
So
right.
the quicker they can get things done, the better. And that's why we were designing products, to solve that problem.
Right. So yeah, 2016, we sold to Control 4, which was then bought by Snap AV. And networks is like the biggest moneymaker for majority of the dealers in the low voltage space. It's either one or two, either a control system or the network. And it's come a long ways in the 20 years that we've been in the space. And it's definitely a moneymaker, and it's kind of great because a lot of our past dealers have made a lot of money on installing better networks, and it's a lot different than 2000 when people were asking, why are you even in this space selling networking gear? But the dealers that caught on at that time with us and been with Package all the way through the years, they definitely made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And part of the genesis now of selling and kind of leading into what we're doing now is we saw even a bigger potential for PoE, mainly because devices were getting a lot smarter. The cloud was coming about, and with the advent of LEDs and some of the other low power technologies that's out there, we saw PoE as the perfect game changer that you could use to make a lot of devices around the house smart. So once we sold Package, Dusan actually moved to Florida. And you want to tell them about your crazy little ventures in Florida?
Well, yeah. Well, my wife and I moved here with our son, and because we had an opportunity, obviously, after the sale. And, decided to build a new house because the house we had here, like a vacation home, turned out to be way too small. We said, okay, well, with the hurricanes and all this, we kind of really need to build it the right way. And we decided to build a home from scratch. And the process, Rick and I were talking about, lighting and PoE and how we had these converging technologies. Well, first of all, from the incandescent light, it went to fluorescent and then LED. And as a result, it turned out to be low voltage and very low wattage. And then on the PoE side, PoE started off at 15 watts and then went to 30 and just recently got ratified to up to 90 watts. So those two converging technologies along with the cloud, right? Everything went from local to the cloud. So those three converging technologies kind of allowed this solution to kind of come to play. Whereas, 5-10 years ago, it wasn't really practical.
Right.
But yeah, going back to the house, I said, well, this is my perfect opportunity, blank piece of canvas. Let me build this house and pre-wire everything for PoE. And that's what I did. I sat down with the architect. I sat down with the electrician. I said, listen, guys, I'm going to run Cat6 to every fixture in the house, just so I can run PoE in the future. And they said, fine. We talked to the building inspector. They said, hey, it's low voltage. We don't care. You can do what you want, right? Which was surprising, right? Because usually get a lot of pushback from these inspectors, but they're like, I'm not concerned about low voltage at all. So that's what I did. And in the end, I didn't have to wire every fixture because of our solution allows you the flexibility. You can double up on certain things. You can daisy chain and things like that. But at least my house was ready. It's definitely PoE ready.
Right. So every single recess can in Dusan's house is PoE, and you're running our products, which is kind of cool. But we knew that as we wanted to bring this company to market, because some of the stuff that Dusan and I did for his house, like PoE, even to TV, outdoor TV sets. We built little hardware devices to run TV sets out there. But we wanted to focus in on money-making opportunities for the dealers, because it's hard to get convergence for anything new. And our past experience says that you got to give them something that's so compelling that they're willing to take a chance on it, to adopt it. And we thought for anybody to do what Dusan did, was wire their whole house up with PoE lighting, would be a stretch for a lot of folks. And although since we've been selling in January, there's been several instances where people have done it, wired up the whole house using our stuff in PoE. And we have a current big installation, going on now. But with all that said, what we wanted to do was take our technology and give them bite-sized pieces that's so compelling. And these are the three sets that I'm showing you that we want to go after. And one is outdoor lighting, which is a no-brainer in a sense of it's low voltage, it's very safe to install. And that's so key for, a lot of the low voltage installers, because we know from being in the industry a long time that they have installed a lot of cameras, right? Cameras are great, but the biggest theft deterrent around cameras and the satisfaction comes from doing outdoor lighting, especially security lighting, especially if you could do a setup where you step on anywhere in the property and you trigger some type of motion and all the lights go full bright. It's a very startling effect. So that's kind of where we want to be, to give our past dealers and new dealers the opportunity to go back to their customers and say, hey, you remember all those security cameras we installed? Well, we also could put in lighting, very easily, around it. And, we'll show you how easy that is, using PoE around it. The next aspect is we want to dominate the whole recessed lighting space, mainly because, we could do a lot of crazy things that you just can't do with high voltage lighting, and all the technology that's out there around smart light switches that controls high voltage. And we'll definitely get more into that as well. And then the last aspect is, we are getting into networking gear. And it's mainly because we realize that there's really no networking hardware that could support our vision on everything we do in lighting. The first obvious aspect is the power supply of PoE switches today. I mean, they're only 30 watts. Very few people are making BT-based networking switches that could go up to 90 watts per port. So all the standards have been ratified, but nobody in this channel sells them or makes them. So wants to take that risk. So
are you saying that there's no manufacturer that's doing like 90-watt PoE switches?
There's a few that make unmanaged 90 watt per port, like an 8-port switch, right?
Gotcha.
But a full-blown 24 port that has a 900 watt power supply that not only does 90 watts per port, but that could also do 2.5 gig. And we'll talk about why that's very important, coming up like now. So
I think the biggest problem was the application, because a lot of these manufacturers, they're not going to build something. They can build anything, but they're not going to build anything unless there's an application for it and there's enough demand. And they're all afraid, yeah, we can build it, but who's going to buy it? And we're like, we're going to buy it, right? So that's why we had to kind of say, okay, we want to make this, and it's got to have 90 watts. It's got to have a beefy power supply, and because we see the need for our drivers that require 90 watts.
Right. So, so this is our overview of products. So at the top, what you see is our current lineup for lighting. We have a full solution of outdoor lighting now. What Blake just showed up with our security camera, which is what we first came out with when we launched the company back in January, which is our hottest seller, which we'll get more into. We're also releasing a whole line of decor architectural-based outdoor lighting and a landscape driver, which we'll tell you guys more about. We're also introducing a whole bunch of indoor recessed lighting that could support some of the applications that we want to put out there, color changing, circadian lighting, and also the various triggering devices for lights, which we'll talk more about soon. And the networking equipment to support not only our stuff, but also the new technologies that we see coming down the pipe. And the commonality features too. I'm not sure if you want to expand on this, given you're the technologist here, but of all our devices.
But you mean on the what, low voltage smart cloud?
Right. Because we also, we've been about 3.5 years in development in a lot of this stuff, as we mentioned before, and we wrote a lot of patents around a lot of this, from all the experience that we got in Dusan's house. So, not only from the hardware form factors, but all the way to how the software interacts, around this local mode.
Right. Yeah. It's the core technology that we built, right? And then now that we built it and it works really well, we can apply a lot of new products to it. And that's what we're doing right now. But
Right.
yeah, like the local mode, for instance, people say, oh, you got the cloud thing going on, but what if the internet goes down? And my internet goes down a lot. Well, there's local mode, right? Once you configure it, because the cloud is a place where you configure everything. But if you have a wall switch configured to some lights locally, and then the internet goes down, it's still going to work. It'll work in
Right.
local mode. The only time you need the internet is to reconfigure, and usually people don't do that often. You set up a light and on a wall switch or a motion detector, and once it's set and configured, you kind of leave it alone. So
Right.
that's kind of a big advantage on that.
Right.
So real quick, my apartment is outfitted with Google Assistant, and whenever the internet goes down, like I have to physically get up and turn all 13 lights off, like old school style, but like I have to actually go to each, and some of the lights are kind of like all over the place. So
Right.
is that not the case for PoEWit?
No, if you have a wall switch, if you have a PoEWit wall switch and you have lights that are being controlled by the PoEWit wall switch, you just
Yeah.
go to the wall switch, you hit the button, the lights will go off.
Okay,
Right.
but you can't like talk to them because I always talk to my Google devices, and like if the internet's down, I can't talk to them and turn everything off.
Right. Well, because if you use those products like Alexa or Google Home, you have to. It requires internet connection. That's how they
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
Right. Right. And we'll go more into it, but we definitely had a solid vision for lighting, and because we are PoE based, we have a processor. That's all we pretty much need to what we feel how lighting should be. And when you walk into a room or when you walk outside your home, you shouldn't be hitting light switches. You shouldn't be touching an app. It should just work, and light should be on a schedule. So they need to do what they do based on what you tell it to do in the future. And if something happens in the meantime, they should go to a state that you want them to go. And we could talk more about that in our outdoor solution. This is an aspect that we fully thought through, and this is what's been taken off for us, especially among the security installers that you guys have in Low Volt Nation. They got it right away. We didn't need to explain it at all because they know if you put just a little bit of light outside, all the cameras switch to color, right? And that's a huge advantage, versus going over IR. And the typical use scenario is so lights come on a schedule and they come on dim, which is very unusual for security outdoor lighting, to be able to dim them. So they all come on very dim. The ones that installed it that went full overboard, they put a motion detection, and our motion detectors are PoE based. So you can put them anywhere on the property, wherever you get a cable, a direct burial, cat cable or an existing cable you may have. And so they blanket the whole property with motion detection. And motion detectors are very easy to configure. It's all software based. So if anyone steps anywhere on the property, all the lights go full bright. And it's very easy to do, with our technology because it's all low voltage and PoE. And to make it even easier, as we mentioned earlier, they installed a lot of these security cameras, and you could take that connection off that security camera and use that to power our lights. So this might be like a typical installation. Dusan, I'm not sure if you want to.
Yeah. Let me talk about that. But before that, let's go back to the previous slide if you can. I just want to mention one thing. So the motion detector, like Vic said, is PoE powered, which is great. But also, if you look at a motion detector, typically they have these little dials you have to turn, and you kind of adjust the duration, you adjust the sensitivity, all that's in software. We took all that out. All that is in software. So all you gotta do is mount it and point in the right direction. And from there on, you can do everything through software. So when you mount it up high, let's say on the second story, whatever, wherever that motion detector is, it's very, very simple. You just go to your mobile app and configure that motion detector. And you go into a calibration mode and get it just right, all through software. You don't have to climb the ladder. So it's a time saver for our dealers.
Right.
So that's the advantage of, again, everything we make is PoE. That's kind of what we're trying to do.
Right. Like this one installation you see on the bottom right of the slide, those were existing cameras that were already there. And that cat cable was taken off that camera and run into our lights. And then from there, with the 2 PoE pass-throughs, it went right back into the camera, and that motion detector was installed. So it was very easy to retrofit this house for the installation.
Yeah. Okay, next slide, let's go. Okay, so this is kind of a diagram of basically what happened at that previous home. So what we're showing is you have one Cat6 cable, and it's going to one of our injectors. That's a 90-watt injector. And from there, you're powering this one floodlight, which is daisy chaining to another light, which is daisy chaining to an IP camera that could be there, that you're replacing essentially, and 2 motion detectors. So one cable, up to 90 watts, you can power, all these lights and a camera and 2 motion detectors. So that's really cool because, this is great for retrofits when the cable's already there and you're like, okay, well, how do I get all these devices? How do I power all this stuff without having to run new cable? And
Right.
with our solution, you can do that.
Right. And so we came out with this. So a lot of people have been buying this. Obviously the security light heads, it's very common like that when we did our research, even the most priciest of homes always had the security light in front of their house, in front of their garage per se. But, other parts of the house, it may not have been suitable. So, our dealer said, hey, we need a little bit nicer looking lights to complete the install. So we just released some architectural lighting. We have 7 models that we released, and we're going to do more depending on our dealer feedback. So we have 7 that we're shipping now, and I believe they're up on our website finally. But they come in 2 flavors. They come with a straight cat cable in, so it does not have PoE pass-through. But and then all of them come with a PoE pass-through model, so you could power more lights or motion detectors downstream. And the other thing I do want to mention is they can all be triggered the same way. So when you install these, they all come up, and you can associate them with any kind of security light, and all through software, determine if this motion detector triggers, I want these lights to come on, and etc. So.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take on this one. This is a product that's in development, and we're doing some beta testing right now. We're really excited to complete the whole, well, not to complete it, but another thing in the outdoor lighting realm is the landscape light. So we figured that, what a perfect candidate for PoE is landscape lighting, right? Because right now, if you want intelligent landscape lighting, you have to buy a transformer, you have to buy a smart switch and all that to make it all work. And again, it's high voltage.
Right. You have to have AC power out there, right?
What?
You have to have AC power out there.
Right. Until you get the transformer, then it's DC. So
Right.
it's the old technology that's been around forever, right? We're like, how cool would it be to have a PoE powered landscape light driver? And we're not in the landscape lighting business, because landscape lighting is pretty standard. It runs either at 12 or 24 volts. So what we've done is created this driver where you take the 90 watts in, and we've kicked it up a notch by saying, well, we're not just going to have one output. We're going to have 2. We're going to have 2 channels. So that means you can have PoE in 90 watts, and you can run 2 different strings of landscape lights, and each string could be a different voltage. So let's say you have the newer 24 volt landscape lights. You can put them on one string and set the voltage at 24, and then you can set the other string to 12 volts and run the old stuff. So, and then not only that, you can control each one separately through our app.
Right.
Or you can have a trigger off motion. One string can be off of motion, and the other one is just going on schedule. It's very, very versatile of what you could do with it.
I mean, you could tell we're strong believers in software. So,
If
right.
the hardware is versatile, the software can do anything, right? I mean, that's
Right.
the philosophy.
Right. And the beauty of this, everything, because the other aspect that we heard when we thought of these ideas and to develop it is, you guys are tired of dealing with electricians, right? And we're not calling it out any particular group, but just the fact that you have a group that has this high voltage license and you got to deal with them. And end of the day, the homeowner doesn't care, right? They just want lighting, they want cameras up, they want all these things, right? But you can't do it because you don't have this license for high voltage. And that that to us, for some, it's a new concept, right? Again, it's almost like selling access points to this channel 20 years ago, right? I know you're not the networking guy, but believe me, you could install this, right? So that's kind of what we're facing now is, I know you're the low voltage guy. You want to do the cameras or, you want to run the HDMI over IP, but you could do this as well.
Right.
You could,
Lighting was always off limits before,
right.
Low voltage guys, and now it's not. And if you think about it, when you bring in high voltage into your home, you really just need it for motors, like a refrigerator, or air conditioning system or something like that. That's where you really need it. A lot of other appliances, they're all low voltage.
Right.
And that's kind of the direction where we're going in, is trying to replace a lot of the stuff that really doesn't need the high voltage.
Right.
And then, going back to the landscape, I just want to mention one last thing. You can set the voltage at 12 or 24, but a lot of times in landscape lighting, if it's a really long run, sometimes by the time you get to the end of the string, it's not 12 volts, it might be like 10 volts or whatever. So this driver also allows you to boost it. You can say, okay, I'm gonna put out 13 volts or 14 volts or 15 volts. And the same is true for the 24 volt versions. You can pump that up to 30 volts, to kind of compensate. Because a lot of these lights will run through in a range. It doesn't have to be an exact voltage for them to run properly.
Right.
So
right.
That's why we're so excited about this product. And
right. I mean, that's a very key point, because anybody who installed landscape lighting, you always have a voltage drop. As you run these cables really long, and that's why landscape lights, most of them are designed from anywhere from 14 volts all the way down to 8 volts. But there are many instances where the lights at the end of the string aren't lighting up. You get a voltmeter to it, it's down to 6 volts, right? That much of a drop, and so you need a little bit more of an input. And again, you're not out there hard touching hardware. You're just doing it through an app. You're just dialing up the voltage through an app.
Right.
Which is
very easy to configure.
It's really cool.
To modify, very easy to tweak.
Right. And the other new product that we're going to ship in the end of this year that you guys have been telling us about is, you guys do not only residential, but a lot of commercial as well. Right. And so we know how hard it is to install lighting, in a commercial environment, especially on the exterior where you're dealing with Romex and a lot of code. And the security cameras, most likely are already installed. And so what you guys wanted was more of a commercial-based wall pack for these large commercial installations. So that's what we're installing. We're also installing it with a higher power PoE driver that goes a little bit over 40 watts. So it provides enough illumination for a commercial building, but there's plenty of power left over, so you could power security cameras and
motion detectors.
Motion detectors, and even the big PZT cameras, when you need a little bit more wattage than 8 watts from a typical IP-based camera. So all right, so our recess lighting solution, you want to take this too?
Right, so we have a few groups of recess lighting that we offer today. They come in 3, 4, and 6 inches, although the 6 inches is not as popular as the other two. So what we've done is we've coupled this with one of our two main drivers that we have. One's more of we call it a non-pass-through, but it's actually like an endpoint driver. So you would plug in your PoE directly into it, and then it would power one of those lights. Then you can combine those into lighting groups, and you have one driver or many drivers, all into a lighting group. Link it with a wall switch, link it with, motion detector if you want. Currently we have just the outdoor motion detector, but the indoor one is in the works. We should have that by end of year. So you can essentially, put the motion detector in your ceiling. And so you walk through down a hallway, the lights will come on by themselves. All that's very possible.
Right.
And then we have our other driver that has the pass through, and we just touch a little bit. So again, it's 90 watts in, and you can see that on the left-hand side on the black driver right there. That's the 90 watts in, and you have two outputs of 30 watts each. So that allows the daisy chaining. And again, you can plug in another one of these until the PoE budget runs out. And as far as the lights are concerned, we have the regular standard, 2700 Kelvin lights in round format, in gimbal, in square. And the middle one there is showing one of our circadian lights. So basically circadian is just a rhythm, but what that means, it's tunable white color. So you can set it up to the color you want, or you can run it to the circadian rhythm, and basically it'll automatically change throughout the day. So when you wake up in the morning, you turn the lights on, they'll start off at 2700 Kelvin, and they'll slowly go up to maybe 6000, at noontime, 1 p.m. And then as the day gets further along, it will start going back to 2700 Kelvin. Now, that's if you want to follow the circadian, but let's say you have a home office. This is really interesting because, it's proven that the white light, whoops.
Start talking about circadian.
Yeah. Let me just finish this. So it's proven that in an office environment, you want to be sharp and you have a clear mind. So the higher temperature, higher Kelvin temperature is better for your concentration and just being on top of it, as opposed to 2700, which is more like the relaxed mode. So if you have a home office, this is an ideal light to have because you can say, okay, I'm working now, keep it at 6000 Kelvin the whole time. And then at nighttime, when it's not being used as an office anymore, it's like an entertainment room or whatever, you can knock it down to 2700 or 3000 or whatever you're comfortable with. So very, very powerful what you can do with these lights. And again,
Right.
all PoE powered.
Right. And I think, once you start marrying a CPU, along with a light, and the CPU that controls it from the cloud through the app, you just get into a lot of crazy, type of possibilities that you could do. And the center of this slide is the whole circadian, rhythm, lighting, that we're going to release first of the year. So, one thing we noticed that different than us is it's going to be automatic, and we see home offices as the perfect opportunity to go retrofit, because you're using a cat cable, which you guys are pretty skilled. I mean, you guys could get these cat cables anywhere, without damaging any walls or whatnot. And to be able to retrofit somebody's home office, that could follow this whole circadian rhythm is, priceless. And, that's something that, customers are definitely willing to pay for. So I have this running now, our prototype in, my home office, and it's incredible. I mean, the mood and the possibilities. And the other key thing I want to mention, what really sets us up well to do all this, is each one of our lights is individually controlled. We are going to show you options where you could get multiple recess cans on one driver, but when you can individually control each one, the possibilities are endless. The biggest advantage is scenes, right? Lights by the windows could come on at a different dimness than lights in the back. I have, the lights installed, where I do a lot of entertaining and have the football game on, and a dessert stand, and the lights by the front of the TVs are always off. By the dessert stands is a little bit lit brighter. And also, anything that we want to show off on the walls, such as art and stuff, you could go color changing on them. So the possibilities are endless, and it's all possible because we have individual controls, and we have a CPU there, around each can, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
Oh, one thing that we should touch on is the emergency lighting, right? I mean, that's a part of our system that we haven't really pushed too much, but it's very, very valuable. So we do sell a UPS that's a power conditioner and also a lighting controller. So it's one device that does three things. And like Vic said, our drivers can control each light individually, but you can also tell each driver, it's smart enough that it knows that if you're running on batteries, so if the power goes out and the UPS tells the network, hey, we're running on batteries, the lights are smart enough to say, okay, I'm going to go in battery mode. And each light could be programmed individually what to do when you're running on batteries. And that could mean either stay on or dim down to 10% or shut off. And then when the power is restored, they go back to their original state. So I think it's a very, very powerful feature, which is not that complicated and works really, really well.
Right. And again, there's an opportunity because it's all done through that one cat cable, right? So like in my house, I have Lutron running that I installed, many years ago. It's a full-blown Lutron system that, of course, does not have the emergency lighting capabilities. And in the Bay Area, in the summer, where the wildfires are happening, PG&E have these rolling blackouts, and it's nice to have lights that can automatically come on, when the power goes out. So it was very easy to do. We had a crawl space. We just ran the cat cables right to the crawl space, just came right up to the baseboards. And from there, in every room, every hallway, every single exit point, we installed just simple little 3-inch square recessed lights along the baseboards. And it's really cool. We had one blackout this past summer, and when the Tahoe fires were happening, and boom, they came on, and they stayed on for like over 8 hours. And that's the other aspect why it's important that all the lights go to a state, including turning off, because it's all about load shedding, saving power, and with our technology, it's just very easy to configure it all that way.
Right. And the other thing is, if the power outage is extended, at like 50% battery or 25 or whatever you set it to, you can say, okay, well, you remained on or you remained dim the whole time, but now you got to shut off. And that's already built into our system. So very versatile what you can do with it, and very powerful. And living here in South Florida, we have some power outages, especially when there's hurricanes. And when we did have our power outages, especially at night, the family would say, "Oh, we have a power outage, but the lights are still on." I go, "Yeah, exactly." That's how the system works, which is really, really cool.
Right.
Real quick, we got a question from John Laurie. He asked, does this support third-party PoE lighting management solutions like Unify or any third-party, really?
Yeah, well, we have later in the slide deck here, we support Control 4 and Crestron right now.
Okay.
And we're going to add more drivers as dealers ask for them. But yeah, it does support third-party.
Right.
But not Unify right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So another aspect that our dealers brought up, especially when they installed our security lighting, it's very security based, obviously now, but with the advent of our architectural lights, it is decor based as well. But one dealer brought up, wouldn't it be cool if I have the security lighting, right? But if the alarm panel goes off, why can't we get these lights to flash? Again, it's very easy for us to do given of our architecture. So end of this year, we're going to release this device, and we just call it the IoT sensor Proxy. And all it has at the end, it has an NCNO, normally closed, normally open contact relay that you can hook it up to many different devices. And then from there, it's all through software, you go set it up. So you hook up to your alarm panel. So when the alarm panel triggers, it'll take that trigger input, send it to our lights, and make all of our, say, outdoor security camera, security lighting flash. So it's like a great, alert, for when police arrive, to the scene, they can see the house with the lights flashing. The other aspect that was brought up is the whole doorbell. Some of our dealers work with homes that has some accessibility type issues, like as folks grow older, their hearing goes, so they have a hard time hearing doorbell. So wouldn't it be nice to take that NCNO contact on every doorbell? Like Doorbird's a perfect example that has these sensor outputs. When someone pushes the button, it sends a signal to our device, and it can make certain recessed lights flash internally, so that people who are a little bit hearing challenged could know that someone pushed the doorbell.
Oh, let me add one more thing. It also works the other way around. So let's say you want to our motion detector, this detects there's motion, we turn our lights on, and you want to tell the alarm system to go off. It
Right.
works the other way too. So you can
Right.
give it 12 volts, it'll trigger it, and then the alarm system will go on. A third party, that is.
Right.
Very
It's all through software. I mean, so it's very flexible. The other aspect too that our dealers brought up is the whole camera integration. We know that these cameras have motion detection outputs. Not only on the cameras itself, if you get the right models, or also on the NVR. And then from there, you can hook this device. So you could not only use our motion detection system, but you could use the camera, pixelation deltas to trigger our lights to turn on as well.
Yeah.
So this device is very flexible.
Yeah.
So Dusan mentioned, the dealers told us, hey, we need a Control 4 integration. So, we can't sell this unless we have a Control 4 integration. So that was the first thing that we did. And we put that out. And I think a lot of dealers are realizing too that they have this integration, so they have another way to turn on our lights, but they're also realizing, for our outdoor security lighting, that they never touch anything. They just work, right? They come on schedule, and when someone trips a motion, they go full bright. Even the homeowners, when they come home, they go full bright, so the homeowner can see where they're going. When they come out of their house to pick out the trash or whatnot, when it's dark, again, they go full bright. So, it's really a self-contained where, you're not pushing buttons, wall switches, even though we have all those products. It just works. And that's the way lighting should be. So,
yeah. So again, Control 4 driver currently, and Crestron driver is in beta right now. So that should be released this quarter.
Right.
Also, our switches are Crestron NVX certified, which means they work with their video distribution system. So that's another reason that you can use our switches for Crestron as well.
Right, and that's a perfect segue into our networking equipment. For those of you that were ex-package dealers, we really never messed around with the horsepower of our products. Our switches had really big engines, and the current switch that we ship today are 24 port and 48 port. They're all layer 3 base switches that made it very easy to install. As soon as you plug them in, they go straight to the cloud, and from there you just simply configure them. But a key aspect of our products, so we currently ship the UPS, which is all cloud-based as well, and our switches, it's all about devices following each other. So when our UPSs knows that it lost utility power, it tells the network, I lost utility power. And then based on that, through software, you could load shed PoE ports on the PoE switches. Because it's all about conserving the battery life, but you don't know how long a power outage may happen. So you may want to turn off PoE ports on your switch. So for high wattage consuming devices.
Right.
And the other aspect that we weren't originally when we first envisioned this company on what we're going to go out with, but at the end of the year we're going to release a wireless access point. So we're getting back into the wireless game, mainly because we were disappointed that there were too many options for Wi-Fi 6. So if you have an iPhone that's at least 2 years old, they all have Wi-Fi 6, and we just weren't really happy that there's no good Wi-Fi 6 options out there. So we're releasing at the end of the year, as I mentioned earlier. So our access point is a essentially a stadium access point that we started with. We started with a stadium grade access point that it's very comfortable in a stadium, but we made the software very easy to install so it could be deployed anywhere.
Right.
Like I alone in my house, I have over 400 wireless devices. Of course, some of them just to tinker with and whatnot, but we find a lot of homes now have a lot of wireless devices, and having that extra horsepower, that high density, access point is key. So
Now, let me add one thing. So one thing we thought about and said, a lot of people have trouble like, oh my God, access point. Okay, let me get the owner's manual. How do I log in? How do I do it? Well, no, everything's cloud controlled. Everything's the same way our lights work. You just open the same app, you go to the access point section, you add the access point, you quickly configure it, and that's it. Very easy to install, very easy to use, very easy to configure. I mean, it kind of follows that whole pattern, right?
Right.
And like Vic mentioned, the stadium grade access point. The reason it's stadium grade, it's high density, right? That's the key here. And the reason it's high density, it's at 8x8. If people know what 8x8 MIMO is, it gives you 8 streams. So typically an iPhone or Android will have a 2x2. That's 2x2 streams because that's the most you want to go, so you can conserve your battery life. So an 8x8 will allow 4 devices to stream without any loss, right? You're not going to have to share with the devices. They can all get the full download speed, which is really, really cool.
Right.
And so that's one of the access points we'll be offering. We also have an outdoor one that's coming, like I think 30 days after this one. And then we're looking for an entry level product, Q1 probably next year. So we're getting back into the wireless, access point business, which is where the package originally started anyway. So kind of interesting how we made that circle.
Full circle, yeah. And as we keep upping the game in terms of higher power PoE devices and releasing an access point, we find that there's no switches that could really support it. So even our current switches, which have a PoE budget of 30 watts, we knew that can't support an access point like this. So this access point could go over a gig of true throughput transmission now. So a regular gigabit switch is not going to cut it anymore. And in addition, with a 12 spatial streams, I mean, these access points could consume up to 40 watts of PoE power. So the current switches that are out there that goes up to 30 watts won't support the full capacity either. So Wi-Fi 6 is here. The iPhone has it and the Androids have it. So any access point that you're installing should at least be Wi-Fi 6, and that in turn means you need a switch that could do 2.5 gigs per port, and that could put out BT PoE power. So that's why we're releasing the NS24B. The 24 port version has a 900 watt power supply. So if you think about 900 watts, right, like on a regular 15 amp circuit, it's about 1,800 watts you could put on. So essentially these switches, if you put 2 on one circuit, it'll take up the full capacity of it. But you can start to see why it's necessary though, because this switch, 8 of the ports could go up to 2.5 gig. That's more than enough speeds to support these access points. And it could put out up to 90 watts per PoE for the ports. So not only for the access points, so they could perform with this full radio budget, but also for our lighting, because you could put up to 90 watts on a string, and you could wire a lot of devices, in a daisy chain fashion.
Right.
So
and that wraps it up, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm not sure if there's any questions about that some users put out there.
Yeah, I'm checking the Facebook group. I don't see any on the Facebook group.
Okay. Yeah, but I will add, so we have a lot of exciting products between now and the end of the year. And we did mention UPSs earlier too. The winter's coming up too. We're running, I think the promotion is in effect now, but we're running a promotion. If anybody buys the UPS to go back and supplement their lighting, for backup, we are giving cat cable away. So a full roll of, 1,000 feet of, cat 6 cabling, both in the 6 and 8 variety. So that's what it takes to, make our stuff work. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So where's the best place to follow you guys? You guys are pretty active on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, all that.
Right. So yeah, Instagram is our biggest. We are on Facebook as well. So yeah.
Great. What else do you guys want to share with the group? This has been awesome. I mean, I'm actually really excited to get my hands on some of that recessed lighting, and once the motion detecting things come out, I want to definitely test those guys out. I mean, there's a lot of application, because I have a bunch of lights in my apartment, and they're all controlled by Google and everything, but
Right.
it's not, it works, but I'm sure it could be a lot better. So I'm really excited to try some.
I can do a little demonstration. Well, not demonstration. I just show some of the new products we're working on, which I have here in my lab. I guess so. This is one of our access points. I can't see myself, so I guess you guys can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see
That's
it.
going to be our budget version, which is come out Q1 next year. And then we have a whole series of lights. This is the Circadian that we mentioned. We call it Circadian, but it's actually just a tunable color temperature, and really good quality die cast backing here. It's a gimbal, so it can move back and forth. It's very cool. Let's see. How about, so here we have,
Oh, that's our landscape.
this is our landscape board. It's our demo board, but we're doing one more rev before we go to production. This is cool because what I did, I took one of these little fire sirens, right? Plugged it in, and I put it on all of the lighting group, and I hooked it up to a motion detector. And I walked into the office, it triggered the sirens. A light went on this channel, and a siren went on this channel. And it's like an alarm system, right? All through PoE, right? So that was very, very cool. Let's see, what else did I put? So this is
Show them the engineering boards. By the way, obviously the shipping version is going to be different, but this kind of gives you some perspective. Hold a little higher.
This is a prototype of ours.
Right.
It still has the PoE in with the 2 PoE out pass through, but it's got a lot of inputs. So what we've done, it's got 8 channels.
Hold it higher, dude.
Lights. Can you hear?
Yeah, right there. That's what we see it.
Right. So this can handle 8 lights, independently controlled. And also we have inputs and outputs for NCNO detection, contact detection. And here we have these are for triggers, input and output triggers. So if you want to trigger the third-party devices like we talked about, like an alarm system, you want to give it 12 volts, you take these 2 wires, hook it up to that. And then if our system detects some kind of motion, it could tell the alarm system to go on. And conversely, if the alarm system goes on because of its triggers, it could tell us, hey, turn your lights on, and we can take that input here.
Right.
All that is in this harness, which we're going to clean up. But this is a prototype board, obviously.
Right. So
very cool.
Yeah, this gives you a little bit of view into our development process. So we get it going, with many wires like that. But obviously, whatever we finally ship it with in the end, those harnesses will be cleaned up in a single harness that you won't even know that there's like 8 wires potentially in there. But more importantly, it gets our software going, because our old previous company, was called Package, Device, and Software. And so we're definitely software guys, and that's kind of strongly what we believe in, is making these devices, the biggest MCUs that we could find, and the multiple inputs and outputs. But in the end, making all the cool software to make it do what we want to do. And so we're the end customer could say cool, it does that too. So
Another thing I can show is our motion detector. I know, Blake, you got one there. It's really cool because you can mount it, like this, or you can mount it like this on the wall. This little thing turns, so you can position it exactly where you want. I got 2 of these in my house on, where my 2 gates are on the side of the house. So, I mean, this is where you want to mount the motion detectors, where the gates are, where the motion is first going to happen. And the lights can be anywhere. And that's the beauty of the system is you don't have to have the motion detector with the light right there where the motion detector has to be. It could be anywhere.
right,
And if you look at the back, all it is just a PoE input. You don't have any dials or anything complicated or analog that you have to deal with, right? It's all here. And just plug in the PoE cable and put it back on the wall and pull up your app and then configure it very simply.
right,
And one more thing I want to mention, it's not just a motion detector, it's a dual function, right? So it also detects light. So when you do the motion with the light, there's a certain threshold it has to exceed before the motion works, right? That's kind of what the passive infrared system works like. But you can just say, well, I don't care. I just want it when it comes to certain darkness, just come on, tell the lights to come on, and when it gets certain brightness, go off. You can tell it to do that as well, all through software. So very, very powerful.
right.
Cool.
All right, cool.
That's great. Well, yeah, we're right up at the last 3 minutes. Anything else you guys want to share? Anything else?
That's about it, but we definitely do appreciate everyone in Low Voltage Nation. I mean, you guys been great. You guys get what we're trying to accomplish. You guys have been very supportive. A lot of our dealers are also Low Voltage Nation guys. So, we definitely appreciate it. And you guys are a tremendous group, very intelligent, just very, with it. And, obviously very much up on technology, social media.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you guys going to be at any conferences in the future? I know you guys were at CEDIA recently, or?
Right.
Yeah.
We were at CEDIA, but, I think with COVID and everything, and the amount of development that we have going forward and, our social media presence, that's kind of the way we'll probably go.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea for the next few months.
I mean, trade shows just take a lot of time in preparation, right?
Right.
And we'd rather spend that time on, either social media or development, right? Just continue developing our products and getting it out there and listening to what the installers say,
Right.
what kind of success they had with it, how we can improve it. We constantly want feedback because
Right.
we make a better product.
Yeah. So, CEDIA was a real, the attendance was, really down this year, obviously.
Yeah, because a lot of guys I think didn't like Crestron pull out. A lot of the big names pulled out. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, we decided to go anyhow. And, we actually showed up with a lot of these hats, this hat that I'm wearing. So, if any of you guys, next time you guys, order from us or sign up with the dealer, just let us know and we'll be happy to, send you one of these hats. So,
yeah. Keep interacting in the Facebook group. That's it's almost a market research tool at this point. Yeah, there's a lot of installers, integrators in there. That's our demographic. Those are people that are my age that are installing stuff or are business owners. The Facebook group is a really valuable resource. And then you guys also have access to the Slack workspace, which is the more heavily moderated and curated channel. The Facebook group can get pretty unruly in some cases, and I try to keep it at bay. But our Slack workspace is like the real tight knit community that it's the paid workspace, which we want a lot more heavily. So yeah.
Right. That's awesome.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you both for jumping on. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks, Blake, for having us. Really appreciate it.
Take care.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.